Warning: the following podcast delves deep into technical architectures, advanced coding patterns, and production-grade AI. Prepare to upgrade your understanding of agentic AI.
This week on the Agent Factory.
We're talking about a domain-specific agent.
What is an agent and what is not an agent?
We actually have a very special guest here today. Hi everyone, welcome to the Agent Factory, the podcast that goes beyond the hypes and dive into building production-ready AI agents for agent developers. I'm Shir.
And I'm Ivan. It's great to be here today. So in this episode, we are going to discuss several things. So we will start talking about what is an agent, and then we will talk about why do you need a framework. We will explore some different trade-off between LangChain, LangGraph, crewAI, and ADK, and we will also, give you some tips on which tool to use for your next project.
Exciting. We will also have a special guest from the Google ADK team to talk about building agents for production. It's going to be a packed show. If you enjoy it, please support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel or following us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also interact with us in the comments or on social media with the hashtag #TheAgentFactory. So let's get started. All right, Ivan, it's time for the agent industry pulse. This is where we bring you the news about AI agents. And when we started building this podcast, we actually saw that it's quite challenging to find the right news that are relevant for developers.
Yep.
And that's why, we thought, hey, maybe we can prototype an agent to help us with finding out those really interesting news. So we wanted to show you how this agent actually looks like today. It searches for relevant information in Google Search and in Reddit, and out of all of this information, it sources the 5 top conversation from developers, the 5 top model launches or framework updates that we need to know, and also the trends that it is identifying.
Yeah, no, I remember how excited you were when you showed me the demo, and I think it's very useful application that we can use for this podcast to find news. So yeah, let's see what it produced.
Yeah, so for our listeners, we just showed the demo here, and you can just see the report created by this agent. And we're actually going to talk about some of the news raised there, right? The LangGraph updates and the crewAI updates. So let's get started. And we will also have the link to this demo in the resources and to the blog that describes the code, so you can also build it yourself. With that, let's get started with the open source frameworks updates. LangGraph just released new features for both Python and JavaScript, including node-level caching to speed up development and deferred nodes to better support MapReduce and multi-agent collaboration patterns.
Yeah, plus, I found really interesting the benchmark that they release about different multi-agent architecture. So they essentially show how, when you start adding more tools to the single agent would struggle. So that's when, you want to consider architecture like supervisor or swarm that seems to maintain, strong performance and better cost. Very interesting benchmark.
Yeah, so I think one of the conclusions is basically that as the number of tools grows, we should lean more and more into multi-agent system. And this actually brings me to the next update we have with crewAI, which is built specifically for multi-agent systems. So now crewAI are focused on optimizing agents so they can perform tools and tasks asynchronously, making the workflow more efficient and scalable.
Yeah, and talking about, optimizing agent to production, another great update comes from LlamaIndex. So LlamaIndex, they launched this new production-ready spreadsheet agent. So essentially, it's an agent that allows you to interact with your spreadsheet, and you can, preprocess your data, and then, you can ask a question in natural languages on your spreadsheet. I think it's pretty useful, especially because we play with spreadsheet every day.
Yeah, who doesn't love a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, correct.
So, if we're talking about domain-specific agents, like for spreadsheet, this time let's talk about less code or no-code agents, like the Agent Bricks from Databricks, that automates the process of building, evaluating, and optimizing production-ready AI agent using your own enterprise data.
Yeah, so they simplify, this process of getting access and using agents, simply providing you high-quality domain-specific agents. So you are more focused, on describing the task that you want to achieve rather than, implementing that. And talking about, domain-specific application of agents, let's discuss a little bit of the news related to coding assistant, which is kind of a trend now. So Anthropic just released this new Cloud Code SDK. So it's essentially a new tool that allows developer to integrates the capability that we're getting access to Claude, the CLI, to their own application and agentic application as well, and build some CI/CD process that will allows them to deploy them to production.
Nice. And I understand that this actually moves also beyond the CLI, enabling you to build automated scripts to understand your entire code base to perform complex multi-file tasks like large-scale refactoring or handling Git workflows. It's interesting. It's interesting to look at this. And also I heard that on the same path, Mistral released its own AI coding assistant that integrate directly into your IDE and design also for enterprise use, with options for on-premise deployment and fine-tuning on private code bases.
Yeah, no, I mean, it provides a powerful alternative for organization. And to be honest, I really like the idea that, you can embed this kind of agentic capabilities in using the company's internal library without you be worried about the security aspect of it.
Definitely. And finally, our very own agent development
Yep.
kit, the ADK, hit its V1 release, now officially production ready. Ivan, what are some of the key improvements in this version?
Yeah, no, there are several updates that are most focused on, improving the developer experience and giving more control to our developers. So first, I will say that the most important one is the ADK Web UI. So finally, it got fully open source, which means that you can customize it. And we introduced two key components, one for tracing and one for evaluation. So we improved those views in a way that, you have a better understanding of the entire decision flow of your agent.
Yeah, I love working with that UI when I build that demo.
Yeah.
And I also saw that the MCP toolset is now much more flexible, allowing you to actually filter the tool per agent that you use. So now the agent has much less tools to reason over, which can help them be much more efficient. Another new feature that I understand we have now is the URL context tool, which now can take the content directly from a URL that is provided without the need to parse the content yourself. That's a nice addition.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, of course, all these capabilities, they don't come for free. Like, you need to use LLMs. So that's why to help people to control better the spending or what the cost of processing this information, we introduced the token usage in the LLM response. So now each time the LLM process something, you will get back the token that you are consuming, and then you can estimate the cost.
Yeah, if I have a dime for every person that asks me, how do I measure the cost of my agent? Now, even a V1 release also, it means production ready, but it also means breaking changes. What are the things developers need to look out for now?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and I mean, I listed three main breaking change that people they may want to know. So the first one, all main services now they are asynchronous. So if you have some old code that you build to be synchronous, probably will break. So you need to refactor it.
Yeah, that's a necessary step for this huge performance boost, right?
Yeah, and the second one is this built-in code executor that has changed. So now it's a dedicated parameter of the agent. It's not an external tool anymore. So you need to change the agent definition in case you use the code tool. And the third one, which I think is also important, is the evaluation data schema. So we completely redesigned the evaluation data schema to be to help people understand it better. So if you run some evaluation using the old schema, now probably you need to update it.
Yeah, you need to basically redo your data set now, right?
Yeah.
That's essential. So also some good news. The ADK is not just for Python anymore, right?
Yes, exactly. So we finally introduced ADK for Java. So now our Java developers, they can have fun building their own agent in their own favorite language.
Yeah, join the party, Java lovers. We get better debugging, more control, and now Java support. And that is a perfect segue for us to get down to the factory floor.
Let's go.
And we are back. Welcome to the factory floor, our deep dive segment where we explore the core concept that you need to build great agents.
Yeah, so today we want to start with a fundamental question because it's the first episode. So, Shir, tell me, what is an agent and what is not an agent?
Yeah, so an agent is an application that has three things. One, LLM to power the brain to reason and plan, memory to keep track of the state and the history, and tools as the hands to operate. And all of this works together to achieve a user-specified goal.
Okay, so Shir, this is a book definition, but let's be more concrete. What is not an agent?
So a simple non-agent system is, for example, an FAQ chatbot. A customer types, "What's your return policy?" and then the chatbot just does a keyword search to find, the most relevant pre-written article. It's a reactive step. It's not reasoning or using any dynamic tools.
Okay, so you're saying that it's something that is predictable, maybe rule-based, and so what is an agent that use agentic capabilities to solve this kind of challenge?
Yeah, so for a more challenging issue, for example, you can imagine that a customer says, "My recent order seems to be stuck." A customer support agent would take that as a high-level goal, resolve the customer shipping issue, and then uses the reasoning to form a plan.
Can you explain what might that plan look like?
Absolutely. So it could be just three core steps. One, identify the customer and their issue. Two, investigate the order status using internal and external tool if needed. And three, communicate findings and provide a solution to the customer.
Okay, so this is a clear plan, just three steps. Can we go through them? And I want to focus on how the agent execute them, especially when things go wrong.
Yeah, so we actually have an illustration prepared for this, so let's follow that. For step one, it uses tools to identify the customers, as we said. For step two, it initially uses a tool to query its internal order database.
Okay, so now I have in mind the plan. So what does happen when what does it happen when the internal check does not provide new information? Like in this case, I would assume that the system would not fail, right?
Yeah, so exactly. This is where the agent need to adapt based on this new information, that internal data is insufficient to solve this problem. Then it will reason based on this information and figure out, oh, I need to call an external API. And then it maybe would call the shipping carrier API to ask, what is the issue with the order? And maybe the API would say something like, oh, there is a weather delay. So that's where the agent will go back and communicate this updated information to the customer.
So it found the root cause, and then in the last step, it will communicate and solve it.
Exactly. That's step three, communicate and solve, based on the reasoning on the new information. And maybe it will also suggest to the customer to send notification using another tool after this delay. It's that loop of plan, act, observe, and replan until the goal is met.
Okay, so to wrap up, like an agent is not a static entity, it's more like a dynamic problem solver. It makes a plan, it acts on it, it learns from the outcome, and then it retakes its plan. And this continuous cycle of reevaluation that makes the application truly agentic compared to a traditional chatbot.
Yeah, that's a perfect distinction. And if it's still not clear to you, we also try to put it together into a logic map. So you can see it now on the screen and also in the resources for this episode. So please provide us feedback on it. So why should I use a framework for this instead of just coding it myself in Python?
Yeah, so I think that the hardest part is not just having the models calling some tool. It's actually making sure that the LLM gets the right context at each step that you were describing in the process.
Yeah, so basically you're saying if I want to write it myself, I would be stuck crafting those custom prompts for each multi-turn. And if I miss anything, the agent might forget its original goal on the way, right?
Yeah, correct. And that's when, framework like a LangGraph and NDK, they introduce this kind of state management capabilities. So what is happening is they handle this part for you. Plus, they also introduce some kind of nice observability tools. So with the framework like Langsmith or the ADK web UI that you were discussing, so you can see at each step of the agent thought process, and so better understanding it and debugging it if needed in minutes rather than hours.
I see. So now I'm convinced I need a framework because it gives me the state management and the window into the agent brain. So now that we figured out we need a framework, before we dive deeper into ADK with our guest, let's talk about, the main frameworks that are out there: LangGraph, LangChain, and crewAI.
Yeah, so I would say that the best way to think this is thinking of a spectrum where you have on one side predictable workflows and on the other side high autonomous agents.
Yeah, so LangChain is basically the foundational toolkit with a massive ecosystem. It's really good for those more predictable workflows like RAG, for example. But the flexibility can also lead to a complex chain that could be hard to debug, right?
Yeah, correct. And that's when you want to manage this kind of complexity that you start looking at, LangGraph. So LangGraph, it provides you more control over state and cycles, and it's perfect to define those applications that they needs to observe and replay, like, the agentic one. The only thing is that it has a steeper learning curve, which means that when you approach LangGraph, you need to understand concepts like nodes, edges. So it requires some time.
I see. And if you actually want another level of abstraction, then you have crewAI, which is built exactly for those multi-agent collaboration, for a role-based structure, but it's also highly opinionated. So if, your system doesn't really fit the crew model, then it might be a little bit harder to implement.
Yeah, so it seems that there is no framework that fits all use cases. All of them, they have pros and cons. And that's the same feeling, that we had when we start working on ADK. So the goal with ADK is to help developers to overcome some of the limitations that we just discussed in a way that they can not only build agents, but they can also deploy agents to production.
Yeah, and to talk about that, we actually have a very special guest here today at the factory floor, a well-recognized voice in the agent space. Please welcome Julia Wisinger from the Google Agent Development Kit product team. Julia, welcome to the Agent Factory.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great discussion so far.
Yeah, Ivan and I was just talking about the different agent frameworks out there. Can you help us understand where does the ADK fit in and why should developers use it?
That's a great question. LangChain, LangGraph, and crewAI are fantastic tools for building the core logic of an agent. But we designed ADK from the ground up to solve the next problem. How do you take that agent and turn it into a secure, integrated, scalable, and production-ready application? ADK is that opinionated assembly line for production agents.
Yeah, I like that assembly line, analogy. So let's go into details. Like you mentioned that ADK is integrated. Can you explain a little bit more about it?
It means you have less friction points. It means, for example, that we have native support for protocols like MCP or Model Context Protocol. You don't need to write any custom connectors. They're literally just built in. And it also means seamless integrations with Google Cloud services like BigQuery. So say you want to use a tool that queries BigQuery. ADK is designed to make that super straightforward and secure.
Okay, that sounds very cool. We also release, the ADK web UI, which is essentially this testing UI that will allow developer to debug the agents. Can you explain us what you try to solve there with the web UI?
Sure, we created this pre-built web UI so that you can literally just run one command, ADK web. It's a component that provides ready-made, customizable web interfaces for your agent. and it saves you the time of having to build that from scratch so that you can test and demo your agent instantly after building.
Yeah, I really like the ADK Web UI. I also heard we have now the multimodal live API. That sounds really exciting.
It's super exciting. It allows you to build agents that interact with more than just text. You can stream audio and video in real time. Think of a customer service agent, for example, that wants to see what the customer is seeing through their webcam, or a translation agent that works with live speech.
That's incredibly powerful, Julia. As one of the strongest voices in the agent world, can you give us 3 tips for developers that are starting to build agents today? What should they focus on?
Sure, that's a great question. My first tip would be to start with a clear, well-defined problem. Don't try to boil the ocean. Secondly, invest heavily in the tools and the data integrations. An agent is only as good as the tools that it can reliably use. And third, building agents is an iterative process. Use frameworks with good evaluation capabilities, with good observability, so that you can understand what the agent is doing and why.
Yeah, now those are great advices. So start focus, build good tools, and iterate with the evaluation. So with respect to these advices, I really believe that ADK provides, these integrated and production-ready path for our developers. So thank you for breaking this down.
It was my pleasure, and I was happy to be here.
Thank you, Julia. This was incredibly insightful and fun having you here today. So thank you for joining. And for our audience, if you would like to start building production-ready agents today, if you're watching this, the QR code for the ADK is on the screen. Otherwise, you also have the link to ADK in the description.
So now it's time to answer some questions from our community. And if you would like us to answer your questions, please comment on the video on YouTube or post it on social media with the Agent Factory hashtag. So our first question comes from Ventak on Syndio, and he's asking, for agent with a hierarchy, when should I use a sub-agent and when should I use an agent as a tool?
This is a great architecture question. And for those who are watching, you can actually see we'll put together a flow chart for this. So a simple tool is like just a simple function. For example, create a product description out of the template. You give it a name and a price, and it gives you the description. But when it comes down to a more complex task that requires thinking and planning, then you would consider an agent. Now, what is the difference between agent and a tool and a sub-agent? When you have a single, well-defined service call, you use an agent as a tool. For example, if you want to create that product description but have it be tailored and modified and actually refined by several agents that give feedback to each other. It internally reasons, drafts, and iteratively refines the output to generate a compelling tailored description. So that's where you would use an agent as a tool.
So it's like, an intelligence specialist that you use for a very specific complex output, but the interaction is still a single request response, right?
Exactly. And a sub-agent would come when you have a broader goal that actually requires a handoff and the agent to interact with the user to get additional information and reason based on that. For example, a personalized teacher dialoguing with the user to design a custom curriculum.
No, okay. So that's a great distinction. So the sub-agent is more like delegating a whole research project to, some other autonomous entities that manage it in its own way, let's say so.
Exactly. And next up, we have a question about deployment. When should I use GKE versus Cloud Run versus Vertex AI agent engine?
Yeah, at the high level, this is the classic questions, do it yourself approach or a fully managed solution.
Exactly. And GKE and Cloud Run are your DIY options. So you would use GKE when you need maximum control or where you have a long-running task. And you would use Cloud Run for a stateless containerized agents because it's fast to deploy and it also scales to zero, making it very cost effective.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are looking for a full managed experience, that's when you want to consider Vertex AI Agent Engine. So, as I said, it's a fully managed AI agent engine on Vertex AI, and it's built on top of Cloud Run, but it gives you a lot of the serverless benefits that you can have by a managed service. Plus, it integrates some very nice features like session management, tracing, evaluation. So, in my opinion, is the most agent native solution that we have on Google Cloud.
Definitely. And to our last question, how do you evaluate agents? Didn't you write a white paper on that, Ivan?
Yeah. We wrote together with Julia. So I think evaluation is one of the hardest parts, and you need for sure you need a multifaceted approach when you don't only consider the answer that the agent generates, but you want to consider also the tool that he use, which tool he use with respect to the user input, how he use it, and then there are other aspects related to the reasoning component of the agent, as well as there are some metrics related to operation of the agent itself, like for example, how long it takes for generate a response. So for sure, it's a very complex topic, and we should dedicate an entire episode on this.
Yeah, completely. And we haven't even started talking about the cost of all of this, right? That's also something you need to evaluate.
Yeah, no, that's exactly like it's a very huge topic, and framework like ADK, they are now starting building in evaluation tools to make it to help people implementing this part.
Yeah. So this is another topic, as you said, to explore later, but that's all we have for the first episode for the Agent Factory. We hope this gives you a clear roadmap for building your next agent.
Yeah, let me thank you again, Julia, for joining us, and for all the listeners. Keep building, keep iterating, and don't be afraid to experiment. All the resource and the code samples that we shared today are linked in the description below.
That's right. Join us in 2 more weeks for the next episode of the Agent Factory, where we will keep on diving into building agents that actually work in production. And until then, keep your code clean and your agent smart. This is Shir, Meir, Lador.
And I'm Nardini from the Agent Factory, powering down.
The Agent Factory is a Google Cloud tech production. For more in-depth articles, code samples, and links to everything discussed today, visit our Google Cloud community page and subscribe to our YouTube channel or the podcast in your favorite podcast application. Don't forget to check out the detailed show notes for links to relevant agent samples and resources. We'll see you in 2 weeks for your next shift at the Agent Factory.